Hello, my friends. My name is Josh. I own a one-person digital marketing agency. I've spent the last 3 years learning everything and anything about digital marketing. Um, Not just the knowledge behind it all, but actually the technical skills that you need to put it all together as well. So I use WordPress for all of my builds. And in this video, I'm going to show you the initial setup that I use for every single one of my builds. I'll also be mixing in tons of little marketing nuggets, tons of technical skills, and explaining why you should just jump on board and start using WordPress today. First things first, why use WordPress? It's pretty obvious. First, if you look at the data, I think over 43% of every website that exists is built with WordPress. WordPress was originally built just for blogging, um, but it's turned into something much greater than that. And if you compare WordPress to other website builders, you'll see why it's just way better. For example, Squarespace or Wix or Shopify. We live in a subscription world where you'll get a great low price and you'll get some basic features. And yeah, they're easy to use, and then you want to do a little bit more. And guess what ends up happening? Now you have to pay more. And then you want to do something more? Well, you have to pay even more. If you just learn some technical skills from WordPress, you're going to be able to do way more for less. And you're not going to be locked into one of these website builders that can bump up their price at any moment. You own your domain, you own your website, and you control all of it. Okay, so let's get after it here. Now, you're going to notice that this video will be possibly not edited at all, with maybe some minimal editing, because I want you to be able to follow along in a natural pace. I'm pretty quick at these things now, where you can pause and kind of see what's going on. So when you log into WordPress, so this is after a fresh install. I use Hostinger, so that's why I have these top things. If you're using a different hosting, you won't quite have that part, but you will have everything below this dashboard. Look, WordPress is very intuitive. So posts and comments would be used for a blog website. We're not doing that on this one, so we're going to skip that. Your media is obviously where you're going to put all your images or videos that you want to be adding into your website. Your pages is where you add each page that you want to have on your website. The appearance section is probably the hardest to grasp. I'm going to be spending a lot of this time showing you that. This is kind of how you set everything up the first time you build things, and then for the most part you don't really need to go back into here. Plugins are endless, so if you want to build an e-commerce website, there are plugins here. If you want to do specific things, there are premium plugins. One of those that I use is a premium plugin called Gravity Forms. Gravity Forms allows me to take payments, make all sorts of custom forms that also can be pushed into making blogs, but is not required, and I will not be going over that. Your tools and settings is kind of situational, and as you gain experience building websites, you'll find yourself in here a little bit more frequently, and I'll briefly show you a couple things here. All right. So when I get going on a brand new build, the first thing that I do is always just set up my pages, and I figure out which theme I want to get. So I do not use the built-in themes. Let me just click that. They've got built-in WordPress themes. I like to use Green Shift. Okay, now Green Shift is just a personal preference on why I like it. You'll notice that you can use any theme that you want. I use block themes though, and that's maybe a different video for why I prefer to use a block theme over a classic theme. I'll maybe sprinkle in some details as we go. So I'm just going to go ahead and activate this theme called Green Shift, and you don't even need to go through this walkthrough that pops up, because often there are other ways and many different places to set the same settings. That's the good thing about WordPress, is it's intuitive. And this is not really loading, so we'll just skip this. I'll go back to my themes here, and I'm just going to go ahead and delete these other ones. You know, when you have a website, you want to delete any sort of media, any sort of themes, any sort of plugins that you're not actually going to need. So I've got my theme added. Again, you could customize it. This is the part that was hung up a little bit later. We'll see if it loads this time. Uh, I don't want to take you there yet, so we're just going to skip that. Okay, so I suggest Green Shift just because I've tried so many themes. I also like Frost. It's minimalist, but you can play around and try any theme that you may want. Under plugins, the first one that I'm going to install is the Green Shift plugin. This is why I use Green Shift, by the way. Oops, I was searching my plugins already installed and I don't have it yet. So let's search Green Shift under Add New Plugin. Here it is, and read it. Green Shift Animation and Page Builder Blocks. You can do all sorts of fancy animations straight out of the box with this plugin, and you don't actually need Green Shift theme to use the Green Shift plugin. I just use them both, and you can play around with that. Again, you can go through some settings here, like add your site logo, site icon. There are lots of different places where you can add these later, so I will skip that. You'll notice that as I start to install things, my left bar starts to grow. So if I have a premium plugin, all of these options will be a little bit different. Next thing that I do is I go to my pages and I set all of my pages up. Get rid of this little prompt. I'd set all of my pages up at the start. You can always come and add and take away later. This specific website will be used to host a tournament. So I own a digital marketing agency and I build web apps that help teams run an online tournament through a website without actually needing any technical experience. So I'm just going to add the pages that I will be adding to this website. And I just like to add the title and go back. So we'll call this first one Home. We will publish. The tournament is called Get the Guardian Invitational Tournament. So you'll notice I have a subdomain added, get.abgportal.net, just for a little sandbox so I can show you some things. You click back on this little W, it always takes you back to your dashboard. So that's one page. We're going to add another page. My next page is going to be called Live Results because I'm going to be building a web app that the tournament hosters can use to display the score results and the draw updates onto this page. Next, the tournament hosters want a rules page so that people can view all the rules. I will add that. And finally, I build my web app to update the website on an actual update page. I hide this page and I put it behind a password so that people can log into this just from a phone and have access to updating the scores and draws. Okay, so if you are a small business owner, this is where you would add your services page or your contact or your about me or whatever. It's really intuitive. Add the page, then it's here, and you can go in here and edit each of these pages. But I'm not going to do that yet because we have to do a lot of work here on this appearance section. Before I do that, I want to set my home page to the home. And so I do that under settings and reading. So I will do that. It's saying your homepage displays your latest posts. So if you're a blog website, you might want to have this selected, but I don't. I want it to display a static page called home. And if you have a blog on a different page, you could select that here. I actually am going to do this later because I use the built-in blog system with the web app to do the live results, but I'll just leave that blank for now. So this is just setting the home page to home. And now I am ready to go into my appearance section. So on the appearance section, I'm going to go into my editor. People do not like WordPress Block Editor because these things kind of shift and change over time. But I think that's a good thing because over time things improve. An example of this is AI. AI has started to be implemented more and more into WordPress. And, I kind of feel good having a website builder that is going to adjust and adapt over time. So these things will change over time. But again, once you get in there and start using them, it's very intuitive. So first I'm going to show you the styles. This is where you pick what your website's going to look like and the colors. So you could go in here to colors. You can change your color palette here. I highly suggest doing like a color generator. Pick a couple colors that look good, and then you can just add it to your primary and secondary. This is why I like Green Shift, is it's very simple. It just has a primary color, a secondary color, and you can change any of these other ones to, colors that look good together and then add it to your designs later. I'm just going to leave it as standard for now. Um, and let's go back. And you can just kind of change your built-in styles here. So I like the dark theme over some of these other ones. And if I had content built, you'd be able to see previews. Once you have that, you'll be able to come in and play around with that. I'm just going to leave it here on the black version. I save, and that's that for the colors. Doesn't need to be done first. It's just something that I find myself doing because I previously determine which color scheme I want to use. Okay, now you'll notice, let me go back to the editor. Someone just rang my doorbell. It's a package for my daughter for her birthday. You'll notice that even in this editor, now all of a sudden you can go and change the page content as well. This is a knock of WordPress, as sometimes it's a bit confusing, but at the same time, you can get to the same windows in many different ways. And once you learn each kind of individual technical skill, you'll understand when you're bouncing between the two. So I don't like to use the pages here. I like to go back and use the pages before. I don't like to use the navigation bar here. I like to do it in my templates or patterns. This is by far the hardest part, I guess, to set up is in the templates and patterns. So the templates, let me just click. You can have a whole bunch of templates that are set up and then fit within your website. But to be honest, I use one. I use the one that has the header on the top and bottom. And I'll show you how to make that after I make a quick little standard header and footer. So I'll go back. This is the templates. You can see, if you've got products or checkouts or a page without title, there are templates in here. We will be doing that later. And under patterns, you'll notice over here, I've got a header and a footer. So I can change my header and footer. This is usually the first thing I do. I don't make them perfect. I make them just placeholders. Before I do all of this, so again, I'm just going to click this WordPress. I'm going to put some media on this website. So I told you that this website is for a tournament. I am going to quickly add all of the media, so the teams involved, and I've also got the sponsors involved, as well as the logos. So I'm just going to upload this. So SaskTel, I live in Canada. Here are a bunch of the sports teams. Here's the Git logo. It doesn't take too long to do this. And now I can actually start to build content and show you guys some of this content and how to kind of use WordPress. I'll do that at the end, but I do have to do a little bit of it shortly because I'm going to show you how to do the header and the footer. And let's just let this last one. Okay, so I've got some content added. You could have started there. You could do that whenever you need. Then sometimes you're building and you're like, oh, I want to make a quick image. Maybe you want to use AI and upload it. It's all just in this media section. So I'm going to go back to my editor. I'm going to go to patterns and I'm going to create a simple header. So now when I click in here, you will see the block editor. So see these three arrows? This comes out with basically, it's kind of like a table of contents. You can select your blocks in order and they're nested. So inside of this group, there's a row. Inside of this row, there is a site logo, navigation, and buttons. I'm just going to get rid of this because I want to make my own header. And you'll notice that in the middle is the preview. On the left, this is how you could add blocks, organize between the blocks that are already there. And off to the right is this little bar for changing the properties. And these are specific to each block. So one of the most used blocks that I use, because I build websites like apps, let's be real, the majority of people are visiting your website from a cell phone. So I make sure they look good on a cell phone first, and then I go back and I style things up for maybe a website, a computer after. So you'll notice that if I type the slash, this is the short way to add your blocks. So I could type stack right there and see how it pops up for a stack. I don't have to do it that way. I could come over here and use the plus sign. And these are all blocks that are theme dependent first and then just block editor dependent later. So you can scroll and play around with all of these, but you'll find that the majority of them are redundant and use the same ones like paragraph, heading, and then there are blocks for structuring your design like the stack, like a grid, like a row, like columns. Okay, so I want to add a stack. I could have done that by adding slash stack. You'll notice right up here, there's always some properties you can change. So I want this to be centered. Again, very intuitive, you guys. They say things like WordPress is hard to use. This isn't hard to use. It's very intuitive. And also here now you can see off to the side, right up here, these are your settings. So this is where you can change the orientation and you could also style these up. You could change the text color, the background. You could add a different type of typography. You could add padding, margins, block spacing, borders, and radiuses. And I'll show you some examples of that a little bit later. For now, this is just a visual. I just need to see a header and a footer so that when I'm building, it doesn't trigger me. I want to see some things. So I'm going to keep the black background and I'm going to go ahead and push the plus. And again, it gives me a browse all option. It gives me a search here. And I want to add an image. This is going to be my logo. Since I'm on a black background, we'll use the white Git logo. It looks like that. And then again, very intuitive. Look, there are some options up here. There are also options off to the right. And now these options will be image-based options because it's an image. And if it was a header, you would notice these options would be different based on the fact that the block is actually a header. So I do not want this to be large. I want it to be medium or thumbnail. That looks pretty good like that. And then I'm going to add after that. To do that there, I'm just right clicking or using these three dots to say I want to add after. So let's add a heading slash heading. Again, I could add it from this plus sign if I wanted to. Let's center this and let's call this 2025 Guardian Invitational Tournament. Okay. And then I will add a navigation. So again, /n for navigation. As you get in here, you'll learn all of these. And now all of a sudden, I've got a nice little visual. You can come back and play around with it. For example, oh, I want some space above that logo or some space below that. So I select the parent block. Again, see these three dots up or three lines up here. I can see the structure of my blocks right here, and I could add another stack below it or another block below it. or I could select the nested blocks within it. I want to select just my stack because I want to change my properties. I want to add some padding. And when I add some padding, that changes some space there. I want to make sure my margin is 0 because I don't want any gaps underneath it. And you can change the block spacing. So see how small that is? And you can kind of tweak like so. I also like to kind of always add a border for style, but you don't have to do it now. So you could, select this blue, and you can start to see in real time what this header would look like. This is really nice where you've got this property window on the right, you've got your navigation on the left, and then you've got the visual right in the middle. So I'm okay with this. This is a nice little visual. Let's just do that and save it so that, let's save this. So now my template part has been updated. I'm going to go back to where I was. Under patterns, my header, you can now see, is changed. And what I like to do, I'll go back into the header, is you can come right up here and copy this entire block, go back to my footer. This is the standard one that's in there. Again, off to the left, I can see that there are a couple of blocks stacked, group blocks. I'm going to just delete those. And now I can come right in here and paste that other header. Now I want the order to change. So you see these little drop arrow down. Let's get the navigation at the top this time because this is actually my footer. And maybe we'll make it look like that. You can decide, maybe I want this for my footer to be just a thumbnail. I don't like how it cropped that, so we're not going to choose that option. You get in real time the feedback of what this is going to look like. And this is just really early on in the process. This is just setting up my shell so that my theme's installed, my pages are there, my media is there, and I've got a visual. So now I've got my header and footer are set. They've been created. You can always come back and change this, and then it'll be applied to all of the pages that have a header and footer. But I have to do one more thing. Under my templates, I want to add a template, and I want to add my front page template. So this will be the template that will be used for my home page. They always have built-in options. I will say skip. And I want to be able to create, now this is another little confusing thing with WordPress. This is the template. So this is the layout. This is not where I put my content yet. This is just how my content will be displayed. So what I want to do at the top of each one, I go /template for template part. I want this to be the header that I created. And now on my home page, we'll start with my header. And I can go change this header under that header section. After this part, so you can access it in here off to the left or here. I'm going to add after. And here's where I want my content. So whatever I add on that page editor is just going to be displayed here. And look what it said. It reminds you, this is the content block. It will display all the blocks in any single post or page. And then after this, I'm going to add my footer. Template part, choose my footer. This is all I want to do here, because what's displayed here in this content will change when I change each page. But this is only changing my home page. Each page has its own template setting that you could play around with. But if you actually go back here, so here are all the templates. You'll notice that there's my front page one that I added. And then there's always by default the one that I use all the time, the page without a title. You'll notice they look the same. I just want a header, my content, and my footer. And then for the page without a title, it's the header, my content, and a footer. Okay, so we are almost done. Reminder, let's do a little review here. Media, I uploaded my media. Pages, I added each page that I wanted to have on my website. Appearance, we installed the theme of our choice. Play around with this, use the ones that are built in. I like Green Shift. And plugins so far, I only used the animated ones that come with Green Shift. It really makes it easy to animate your blocks. And I will show you some of that at the end of this website tutorial. We went in under settings and we changed that we wanted our home page to actually be home. And then I went in and played around with my editor. In the editor, I have the color options, I have my templates, and I have my patterns for my header and footer. Okay? I do this for every single website, whether I'm building an e-commerce website, whether I'm building a website for a sports team, whether I'm building a business website, or whether or not I'm building just a simple sales funnel for a client. Now that we've done all that, you can just go to your pages and start to edit each page one at a time. And because we did the templates and we have a header and a footer, you can start to navigate between pages, start to add content, start to visualize what that looks like, and then go through this process of adding content, editing it, modifying it, and going from there. Okay, so let's go under the home. It's now showing that it's my front page and I can edit the content there. And you'll notice it's the exact same as when I added my header and footer. So now I can just add my content here. I could add another stack. I could add whatever content. I want to show you a couple of cool features here. Again, here you can set a featured image so that if you see this page pop up on a Google search, it'll come with a featured image. You could also change the template right here. So this has changed already because I set up the front page template. If I wouldn't have done this, this would not say front page and I might have to change it there. I want to show you the power of certain themes. If I push the plus, you see all your individual blocks. So these are theme-based again. Under patterns, you see all of these built-in patterns that you can use. And each theme is going to be different. So if you wanted like this nice little grid layout, you want any sort of, it depends on what you're trying to, like here's a featured pricing table. So you just click that once and it drops the entire thing into your website. And then now you can go in and modify all this content, modify some settings, change things, delete blocks. And again, notice on the left, there's nested blocks. Some of them are set to organize. So we've got a stack and then we've got columns. You know, it takes time to learn what each of these do, but very few of them are actually needed because, again, if you're building a website in 2025 or 2026, most of these things are only going to be viewed on a cell phone. If you're building it for the cell phone first, you're doing a pretty good job. So you could go in and modify all of that. Don't forget that off to the right, you now have properties. So this would be the stack properties. Oh, I want to change the background color. I could do that here. If you want to change the border or add a radius around that border or change the margin. So see how this has a really big margin? You could shrink this down and in real time you see what that looks like. So when I save it, you can always preview it. I could just click the view page. And now here's that header that I built. Here's the content being displayed right below that header. And there's my footer. And at the top, I can now go in and say edit page. Another really nice feature here. So let's go over here. Let's add underneath, add after. This part right here comes from the Green Shift plugin. They have their own built-in templates. Some of them cost money, but even under the free ones, look at how many free templates there are. And this is the sale feature that Squarespace and Wix and all of these other things get you on. They say, oh, we have built-in templates. So does WordPress. Every theme does. And WordPress, the Green Shift plugin has a bunch too. And these are modified or animated, you guys. Like they look really good. So like look at this scrollable circular gallery. They're always changing them. This is brand new. So let's check out what this looks like. I'm going to import this. Then I'm going to scroll down and you can see that this would be when you go in here and change these images, this ends up becoming a really nice animated block that makes your web pages look insanely professional with absolutely no real technical skills. I don't know if it's going to show it to me. Yeah, it kind of blends these images. So when you change these images, this would look really nice. So I go back to edit page. When you're just beginning, I would stick to adding patterns that are already built in, either under the pattern section or under shoot. Let me go back in, or under this little green shift. You don't want to use the green shift plugin. You don't have to. So let's go back and do a different page. So let's say the live results page. This is going to become a blog page for me later. Same thing. The difference here now, so let me open up my settings window. Under template, this is set to pages. What does that mean? I'm going to show you here. So let's add some content. Again, let's just use the green shift template. Hero section, yeah, let's use this one. Okay, and let's save it. Let's view the page. And you can see here my content. Here's the issue. I don't want this title to be displayed there. And that's the part that comes from the template. Remember that one template was built in that said page with no title? So I can change my template to the page without title. And then now when I save it and I preview it, you're going to notice that title is gone. Okay? So basically, I've shown you everything that took me some serious time to learn, and I know I did it quickly, but everything fits together. Your pages, your appearance, the editor, the templates, the patterns, and all of them are accessed from that little navigation window where you've got the live preview in the middle. You've got the navigation bar down the left and the settings down the right. Let's go into rules and edit this. Again, the first thing I always do is get rid of that template. I want to change my template. I want the page without a title. And then as you gain experience, you can start to add content without using a template. As you're learning, use a template that's there. Pick off what you like about it. You can cut it and paste it and move around there. But for the most part, I really like to use the stack or columns because columns will stack on mobile. So to get it looking good on, you can change here again on the stack. I can make it wide width. I can make it full width. It just depends. I'm going to show you why sometimes it's nice not to use full width. So I've got a stack. I am going to use this time the green header, not the other header. That's just Gutenberg Block Editor header. I want the theme header, and I'll show you why shortly. So let's just, again, here are my properties at the top, properties on the right. They're very intuitive. I'm still learning some of the smaller ones, but you can change the background of this block. You can change the spacing, the border. Do you want a shadow? Do you want a side? So I'm just going to go ahead and add some content, title of content. And I'm going to show you that if I go up here to right here to advanced, this is how easy it is to make an animation. You could then come in here and select the animation type. You don't need anything fancy. So a nice one that usually, fade looks like that. Fade up looks nice because as you scroll, the content flips upwards, and you can change the duration of that fade. So maybe you want a quick fade, and you can change a delay. Maybe you want it to wait 500 milliseconds. Really easy to add animations, you guys, to all sorts of blocks. These are the blue blocks though, because that comes with the theme green shift. This is why I use the editor and the green shift plugin. Because it just adds so many layers of animations quite easily. And let's be quite realistic here on 2025. Our brains are melted. If you've stuck with me this long, it's clearly a sign you want to learn this. But the reality is, people's patience is so short. Your web pages do not have to be overly fancy. They should have nice, simple contrast, or maybe a subtle animation, and they should get straight to the point. If you're selling a product or marketing your business or whatever. And I like to do that again with the stack preferably. You could go to change the background of the stack to add a color like that. And then I can scroll, and I like to add a border. So let's make this border white. Let's change the size, and let's add a radius. So now I can have some content, add after. Let's add an image. Let's use image advanced. Select from the media library. Let's use the school logo. It's a little bit big, so I want to change to a medium or small right there. And again, because I used image advanced, I can now go over here and also add an animation on this image. So maybe this time I want just a fade, but maybe I want it to take a little longer and I want it to delay for a while. And then I can save and I will view that page. So here's where you can see now all of a sudden, especially on a phone, this black space to the left and right, it really allows you to control how your content is displayed. You preview it, you're like, I don't really like how my block is right against the header and footer. So that's easy. You go back into edit page. You go back to my stack. And we want to add a bit of a margin on this so that it pushes. You save, you view the page, and now you can see there's a little bit of a gap, and you can see what that looks like in real time. So this setup is really dynamic. You can make all sorts of nice web pages that are animated, that look good on all devices. That's why the block themes are nice. They automatically look good on every device. So if I just shrink this, you can see that the content will just shift around. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to understand CSS. There are times for, some HTML and CSS if you're a person who learned that. I did. The early part of my channel here is me teaching HTML and CSS. But once I jumped onto WordPress, I really have kind of never looked back. Okay, so last thing I'm going to show you, 2 more plugins that I use on every build. Let's go to add plugin. The first one is going to be an SEO plugin. It's Rank Math. If you just search rank, it should be there. There it is. Look at the reviews. 7,311 reviews, all of them essentially 5-star. Do not pay someone to do your SEO. I'm a person who thinks SEO is dead anyways because AI is taking over. There's really a unique game that people are playing with search engine. But at the same time, I think there's some quality of life things that we can do. Now, I don't even connect my Rank Math account here. There's kind of a walkthrough so you can have everything under one roof. You can have your analytics and stuff like that. I'll show you how to use Rank Math there right away. Let's go back to my plugins. The other one that I like to add is independent analytics. Oh, did I spell that wrong? Independent analytics. So this is going to be, instead of using something that requires you to sign up for Google Analytics or something, you can just simply activate your independent analytics, and let's let this activate. Now up at the top page here, you can see how many people are visiting your website. You can actually see these spikes on your website. So I add that to every website so that, I visit it, I see how many people are viewing it. Now, last year, this tournament website that I built, actually, now that I'm thinking of it, I want to go back to my pages. I forgot that this tournament also has live streaming. We live stream these basketball games. So I would put live stream as a page. I could now change my template now into a page without title. And what I do is I come in here and I just embed my YouTube link. If you look, they have YouTube embed right there. It's really intuitive once you get past that early learning curve. So I want another page here for my live stream. And oh, I gotta let it finish saving. Again, you see all of your pages. You can delete them, change them, and now you're going to notice there's SEO details on the side as well. But I just want to finish my thought here with this tournament. Last year, we got over just the weekend 10,000 views of people checking the scores, checking the results, or watching the live stream. And I built the entire thing with WordPress. Now, I'm not going to show it in this video. This is maybe something if you are interested, but the update page, I add gravity forms and I build a web app so that people can update parts of the website themselves just from those forms without needing to log into WordPress or anything like that. So leave a comment if you really are interested in that. I'm going to end this video showing you some SEO stuff. So go to the home page and edit. And now you'll notice again up on this bar, we've got this rank math section. And this is where you can enter your focus keyword. So for this, I would probably want Guardian Invitational or Git or whatever. If you're a digital marketing agency or you're selling a product, you could do some keyword research, add it, and then it just lets you know tons of important information off to the side. It says you have not added your focus keyword to the SEO title. Well, up here, you can go to edit the snippet and you can change the title. And I can say, well, I want to have that keyword. You can have your description, Guardian Invitational Tournament. And this is what's going to show up when someone searches you so that it looks professional, not junk. And this is what's hilarious to me about these website builders you guys pay for, Wix and all these, that you usually have to pay for SEO, or it's very limited on what you can do. And you don't actually know half the time. You cannot, the amount of websites that people have paid other people to do who don't even have basic SEO, search engine optimizing done, it's really frustrating to me because it's really easy to come in and change what you want this to look like when someone searches. And not only that, but off to the side, now notice how it turned this to a check mark. It said, good, you're using that keyword in your title, but there's a bunch of X's here too. You've got to add that keyword somewhere in your page. So you could come here and say, well, I should probably have that keyword early. So even if I just add get, now notice how it's starting to add pluses and it's slowly adding a score for my SEO. I wouldn't suggest going down a rabbit hole here because, again, in my opinion, SEO is dead slash shifting, and it's not a game I care about right now. It's a game I'm paying attention to. And as SEO shifts through this AI world that we live in, um, I'm going to jump back and modify some things. But this is, you install Rank Math, you add a keyword, you change your snippet, and you follow along off to the side to just follow basic practices. It's better than nothing. And it's really easy to do, and it costs you nothing. Okay? So now WordPress can become so many more things by learning the editor, by learning specific themes, and by getting into the plugins and playing around with which ones you specifically need for your build. For example, the WooCommerce one. So if I type Woo, I am able to, with this plugin, basically make a Shopify store, which I've done for one of my clients who sells organic skincare products, for a fraction of the cost of what Shopify will charge you. Shopify will charge you, again, a very flat rate early until you have a certain amount of products or you want to incorporate other features, and then surprise, surprise, you're paying more. You know, Shopify can end up costing you $1,500 a year, $2,000 a year, and you have to go in and build all of the stuff yourself. WordPress, you can buy a domain for 19 bucks, you can buy a shared hosting package for dirt cheap, and you can just build something yourself. It's very intuitive. And you're still doing the work, but you're often doing the work anyways if you're using a website builder. Okay, so I'm going to stop that video there. I'm hoping, especially if there's interest, to make more WordPress tutorials to teach specific block tips and tricks, to go through some e-commerce stuff and all sorts of marketing funnel related builds if you guys are interested. So I hope you liked it. If you certainly stuck around, you know, how long have I been recording now? 45 minutes, and I'm not editing a single thing here because I feel like I would naturally click through, and I went pretty quickly anyways. If you're interested in getting some help on how to get set up or why I use hosting, or how did I set up this initial build, again, drop a comment, send me a message. I'd love to help you guys. But the second I learned WordPress, I never looked back. I own a one-person digital marketing agency. I do all of my builds off of this, and I embrace the fact that the block editor changes and that over time these windows change a little bit, but once you catch on to them, oh, I could go back, I could change some colors. Maybe I want my primary color now to be, you know, maybe more of a pink. And you can see now you get the feedback that we didn't get before of what that would look like on my page. You review your changes and it looks good. Oh, you want to change now your header and footer now that you've built your page. For example, on my header and footer, I don't want to display the update page because that's hidden for the fact that I want the tournament hosters to use it. So you could go in here and remove that page. And it's really intuitive once you catch on to how things link together, once you catch on to the templates, the patterns, the styles, and you know just how everything works together. That's it. That's all. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like, subscribe, and comment if you want something specific, especially in the digital marketing world, especially on WordPress. But I only use block themes. I will argue anyone on why I think a block theme is better, and I will leave you with that quick nugget now. And I've already mentioned that. We live in information overload where we can only process so much information at once. If you're marketing a business, if you're selling a product, the information and the images that display are so crucial. And if you think of it in terms of a block, you can create one block to serve one purpose. Oh, I want a nice hook or headline. I want to have a nice logo or image, and I want to have a call to action. Oh, that's just a block. Now let's add the information. Let's style that block and then add another block below. Oh, I'm selling, I'm advertising my business. I want to show that I have good reviews. So you want to think about it in terms of a block. Hey, let's get some reviews put together in this block. Let's put my 3 or 4 reviews. Let's style them into columns. That's done. At the end, oh, I want to show something about myself. I want to show that I have authority. I want to show that I know what I'm doing. And in my case, I have 3 degrees. I also teach high school. I teach computer science. I teach physics. I teach calculus. I have a master's degree. I've been building things at least digitally for 3 or 4 years. So I do know what I'm talking about. But when I put that on a block, it's really easy to think about what's the purpose of this block. Oh, I want to show my face, my picture, and all of the little things that I can add that show that I actually have authority in this space. Thank you, especially if you stuck to the end. I hope it was useful. Learn a few of these technical skills and never look back, because WordPress is cheap, it's affordable, and these technical skills are mostly just clicking around, trial and error and intuitive. And once you do a couple of them, you'll notice how much easier it becomes. Early on in my process, I learned a few simple block patterns that worked for me, and I reused them over and over and over again. And then as my experience grew, I can learn to do many more things with the blocks, different types of animations, but you got to start somewhere. All right? Always be grinding, my friends. Take care.